Hey guys, and thanks for stopping by. Today I want to talk to you about what I personally think is the best class right now to use in Warzone. Now I initially had a thought of what I thought it was until I recently was playing a game and died. I came back out of the gulag after a one tap, and I landed right on a person that I ended up sneaking up on and just, assassinating. The guns that I picked up off this man were perfect. And I used both. The HDR is one of them, and we'll talk about what I personally think is the best setup for that. And there's a very specific thing that I see a lot of people kind of screw up on that I'm starting to realize is actually the meta. And also the MP7. The MP7 is a gun that I haven't really given a lot of respect to, especially in regular multiplayer. I recently unlocked gold for it because I was just so in love with what I seen in the Warzone gameplay that I had to go full force and try to get gold just because you got to flex a little bit. Working on Damascus as it is. But right now, we'll talk about the MP7. Now, the MP7 is a gun that has very minimal recoil. It's very fast. We all know it shreds. It drops its ground loot in Warzone. And Plunder, if that's your thing. Which is also, by the way, pro tip, Plunder is a great place to unlock weapons for any of you who don't actually have the base game. You can go in there and unlock all your attachments for your weapons. Which is, they just drop kills. Don't worry about the money. It doesn't fuck with your stats. You'd be good with that one. But for here, we're going to talk about the monolithic suppressor. If you know by now, the monolithic suppressor increases range, damage, bullet velocity. I think it slows down? No, doesn't even slow down bullet velocity. So yeah, damage, range, and sound suppression is a big thing. Obviously, you take a hit on the ADS speed and steadiness, but MP7, it's not really that big a deal. Also want to go with the FFS Recon. The reason for this one is because it's going to increase your range, velocity, and your control. And these are three big things in Warzone. Obviously, the map is kind of wide. A lot of your engagements take place at medium to close range. And you definitely want to have that extra little bit of range, especially if you're a console player. I don't think a lot of people don't realize. I play on PC, but when you play on console, having guns with increased range actually kind of increases your ability to ADS with aim assist. Now, I'm not going to get into that whole conversation, but aim assist will take an effect on ranged weapons. That aren't sniper rifles, no scope. So you will actually have that rotational aim assist as well as that aim assist slowdown better with more range on a fully automatic weapon. That's just how it works. Also going to go over to now the attack laser. Now attack laser, aim down sight speed, aiming stability, aim walking steadiness, and also with this laser, if you don't know, it's not actually active unless you're ADS'd. Now, a lot of people think they don't want to put it on because they don't want people seeing them behind a door. Unless you're hard aiming the door, they're not really going to know you're there. And that's just... it's going to give you the leg up when it comes to sprinting a corner, turning the corner, and there's somebody there. Somebody there, you're going to be able to ADS faster, land the headshot, land the hip fire, land whatever it is you need to do a lot sooner than they can actually react. Which can be beneficial for you because that gives time for your team to catch up and, help with the fight. Also going to talk about the underbarrel here. We're going with Ranger foregrip. And the reason we're going with Ranger foregrip over the Merc foregrip or any of these other ones here, one, it just looks better. The other ones are kind of large and kind of out of place with this little gun. With the Ranger foregrip, what you sacrifice with mobility, you actually make up for accuracy and control. It also helps your range a little bit because with control, you can control the recoil and hit your range shots better. It's not really too much that goes into that, but I would take the Ranger over the Merc. If you just look at the stats, you can kind of see what you give up in mobility. It's just worth it. Now, the 60 round mag, this should be pretty much self-explanatory. Armor is a big thing in Warzone. It's also very finicky right now with the way hitboxes are working. If you have as much time into the game as I do, you will start to realize that the hitboxes are not necessarily the best. Hit registration is not necessarily the best. And desynchronization is kind of shitty. So people aren't where they say they are, people aren't taking the shots they're supposed to take, and if you can relate to that, just leave a comment below and tell me how much you fucking hate that, and they wish they would fix it. But 60 rounds is going to make sure that somewhere within those 60 rounds, you should have enough time and enough firepower to at least secure a down and possibly a kill. Now, if everything goes in your favor, 60 rounds is actually more than enough to kill 3 people, providing you're hitting your shots to the head, body, upper body, whatever you do. And securing the kills, make sure they don't get away. Next up here, I want to talk about the HDR. Now, the HDR, if you have been playing Warzone, there's 2 snipers. If you've been playing Call of Duty, you know that there's multiple ways to get that long-range kill. As far as the snipers are concerned, anybody who's using the AX50 and are trying to hit these far-range shots, That gun, don't let the stats fool you, has more power than the HDR does in its effective range. Now, its effective range is not nowhere close to what the HDR can actually do. The HDR's effective range is actually far, far beyond that of any gun in the game. There's actually a weird thing going on with the Kar 98 as well, where the Kar 98 can actually kind of hit the shots at the same range. Bullet drop's obviously a little bit more, but I haven't figured out whether or not the Kar 98 can actually one-shot somebody at 3 plates. So if you know, leave me a comment below and let me know, because that gun actually slaps pretty hard. That's another good option if you're not trying to go for the super long range kills. The Kar 98's great. I would actually take that over the X50 probably any day of the week. But as far as the HDR is concerned, we're going with the monolithic suppressor for all the reasons that you should already know that I explained with the MP7 beforehand. And we're also going with the longest barrel they have. And the reason we're going with the longest barrel is because if you see somebody at distance, you can actually lay them down. Also, the control that it gives you with aiming stability is actually really, really good. There's a lot of cheeky kills you can get from third parties that you're going to want to be able to secure for your team. Wiping a team can actually make the difference between winning and losing, even if you're not involved in that fight to begin with. So, for instance, if you're at the edge of a circle and you're going in and there's 2 teams fighting, if you kill the team that's being one of the teams that are being fought, that's one less team that you're gonna have to fucking deal with. I don't think people get how important that can actually be. So having this little bit of extra range, bullet velocity, and control is really a big deal. Also, the bullet velocity thing, that makes it just a lot easier to hit your targets while they're on the run, and that's a huge thing in this game, where you can actually drop somebody, especially if you're playing solo. I mean, solo kill one person, you can lay them out. It's a kill for you. Also, bringing up the thermal optic. Thermal optic dual power scope's a good choice, but I don't think people read the descriptions, and myself included until the other day. The dual power has a 5 times zoom and a 12.1 times zoom. Now the 5 times zoom is pretty good, and 12.1 zoom is definitely good because you can see very, very far. But I find myself wanting something in between, and I used to think there was nothing here unless it was going without a thermal. And thermals are so powerful right now, because if you can get this before somebody gets cold-blooded or somebody coming out of the gulag, or people who just don't run cold-blooded, even if they are, you can see them clear as day, and a lot of times a lot better than an actual sniper scope. But the thermal sniper scope itself has an 8 times zoom, dead in the middle. It also gives you better control than the dual power does. Also, I find myself trying to sprint before I undo my ADS, and it changes my zoom. So for me, I find that not having that dual power adjustment actually ends up being better for me in the long run, because I won't have my scope zoomed at 12 when I'm forced rather to hit like a quick shot with a sniper rifle. I wouldn't try a quick scope in Warzone if you're kind of trying to go for the win. If you're trying for clips, that's different. You don't even want to be using this gun at all if that's what you're trying to do. Even though the HDR actually has a better ADS speed than the AX50, until you start adding the attachments for ADS speeds. We'll just let that go though. We're also going to go with the FTAC champion, and the reason is just stability. Aim walking steadiness, all those things. Any of those shots you got to hit at a distance, this is just going to make it easier for you. Less sway in the scope means more focus on the target. We're also going with sight of hand. Now this one's pretty variable. You can kind of do what you want here. I prefer sight of hand because if you're in a sniper battle, that quick reload can save you a lot of time and get you back on target. So say you're going up an AX50 within its reasonable range. The sight of hand perk will actually put you on par with what it's able to do as far as rounds per minute, just based on reload speed alone, providing they're not using sight of hand. Now, I would go with that. Another option would be to not use this and just use a 9-round mag. That's all up to you, but I prefer to use a sight of hand because when you use these 9-round mags, it messes up your control and your mobility. So running with the sniper rifle actually becomes slower. And that's a big thing that I'm starting to realize is pretty important. Movement speed's getting kind of important. Next, I want to talk about perks. And for perks, this should be pretty much a standard thing across the board. This is kind of like the meta setup right now. With how powerful thermals are, you're definitely going to be wanting to run cold-blooded, just to keep you off the thermals. And that is a huge game changer. I can't tell you how many times that I've been just ADS through a scope at a target that I'd known was there. I can see his white reflection, and he has a teammate off to my right in my peripheral that I've barely noticed or not noticed at all. That has cold-blooded on. It's just blended into their environment. Happens often. There's no nameplates in Warzone, so definitely run cold-blooded. It's just going to give you that leg up, and even a split second of time where they don't recognize you can give you the advantage in a fight. Also, double time's a good choice if you don't really care too much about avoiding the thermals. If you're going to be doing a lot of downtown play where you're not really going to worry about those long-range engagements, you can actually sneak around from building to building a lot faster with double time. Next up, we're going to go overkill. Now this one gets a little tricky. Now, overkill, you definitely want to run first. And the reason I say run it first is because with the map as wide open as it is at the first couple circles, by the time you get a loadout drop, overkill allows you to have those two weapons. The MP7 HDR are definitely what I would say to go with. Obviously, this is just what I personally think is best. But when you get your first loadout drop, by the time you usually get the first one, another one should be dropping for free. I would still say spend the money on the first one, though. When you get your overkill class, go back to a box and then swap your weapons for a class that has ghost on it, and that is going to be your biggest game changer at the end of the game. And in those final circles, not having ghost on is gambling with the W. And the reason I say this is because heartbeat sensors are so powerful, and we'll talk about that in a minute. UAVs are so powerful. So having ghost on definitely removes you from those. Also, the radar drones. Some people use them, and they can really fuck your day up. So definitely run ghost on the second time. And all you gotta do is just pick your weapons back up. So you'll have ghost and overkill essentially at the same time. Keep the other two perks the same. This way you're out of it. The third perk here we're gonna talk about is amped. Amped rocket launcher reload speed. It's not what we're using it for. We're using it for the weapon swaps. With how powerful the idea of third-partying a team is right now, especially with how long it takes to put plates in, also plate cancellations that just happen for some reason, amped is going to be really good. So say you're in a fight and you're ADS'd in your sniper rifle, somebody runs up on you, amp's just going to allow you to switch that MP7 almost instantaneously. It's almost like you weren't actually going to be killed. There's plenty of times that you can turn around and just drop somebody much faster than they're anticipating because they're just running up on you thinking that you're going to be out of it. Putting a sniper away is normally pretty fucking slow, but the MP7 is very fast to pull out. Amp makes the putting the gun away faster, makes pulling the gun out faster. Definitely a must in my opinion. Some other options that you're going to have here are tune-up. So revive times 25% less in Warzone. There's a little tooltip right here that says it. Also, tracker. Like I said earlier with double time, if you're downtown a lot, tracker can be really good for chasing people into buildings because you're going to know exactly where they ran to based on the intensity of their footsteps on the ground. That would be all I say for perks. Also, in case you didn't want to run overkill or ghost, hardline's pretty good choice if you're good with one weapon. 25% off those kill streaks and field upgrades and armor plates at the buy stations is actually super good. 25% is a pretty big deal, especially in this game. Next, we're going to go over to the lethals. Lethals, is, this is kind of up to you. My personal preferences stem between C4, thermite, and Molotovs. And the reason I would go normally with Molotovs is to finish kills behind rocks, behind cover, aerial denial. The list goes on, really. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a drop on somebody, down them, and I can't really push them to finish the kill, or push them before they self-revive. And a Molotov will actually finish that off for me. Also with trucks. Trucks are really a pain in the dick right now. So C4 mollies, they tend to be the best at dealing with them. Mainly because with C4 mollies, C4 obviously blow the fucking truck up. Mollies, you can throw it right on that driver's side window and it will burn them to death and it will down them. But you just got to make sure you're nowhere near the fucking truck. It doesn't really matter. You can get sniped by a truck in this game anymore. It's fucking ridiculous. Tactical, this is a must, in my opinion. Stims, I used to think would be the go-to. I used to think this was the meta. I used to think this would be the thing that everybody would be running is stims because that's what you're going to run a regular Call of Duty. Stims are so fucking powerful. But the heartbeat sensor. I know if you've seen other people's videos, they've talked about this. unlimited uses, extremely powerful based on the amount of people who don't have Ghost on. It's essentially a wall hack without there being a wall hack. Now, only thing that you need to get used to is it doesn't take into account elevation, so somebody can be all the way up high on a roof and it will still read them, but at least you'll know they're there. You'll be aware of their presence. The only time you're going to get screwed over with this thing is if you're not synchronizing what you're seeing on the heartbeat sensor and your audio, and if somebody's running Ghost in a team. So you see one, you see two, the third one's with them, but he's using Ghost. Just be expecting that, because if you're expecting that, you won't be fucking disappointed when that third guy shows up. But other than that, this thing is far beyond the most powerful thing in the game. I expect it to be nerfed. At least the range on it. This thing reaches out to 50 meters. 50 meters is a pretty big deal. That's most of your engagements are going to be about 50 meters. Most of them. So definitely use this. And this is what I was saying earlier about using Ghost in the final circle. Almost all of my wins come down to killing a guy in the final circle who's not running Ghost, and I knew exactly where they were before they knew where I was. It's just as simple as that. The heartbeat sensor is the most overpowered thing in the game. Use it, take advantage of it. Definitely don't let that one slip by.
Oh, this fucking guy. God.
Bitch.
Damn. There's 6 people left?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That one's more damaged.
Mm-hmm. Reason they get Ghost on. Destroyed something. No idea what it was. You fucking plates, dude.
Fuck. People left. Sick, dude.
You're welcome. Fucking bitches, dude. They all these dudes are fucking weirdos.